Good Friday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Well, we made it to the end of another week and the beginning of another month, so hello, October. Glad to have you here. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Friday. We have the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you'll be part of my conversation with author Anthony Trucks about his new book, Identity Shift. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Friday headlines. In national news, Congress passes bill to avert partial government shutdown. With only hours to spare, Congress passed legislation that would avoid a partial federal shutdown and keep the government funded through December the 3rd and sent the bill to President Joe Biden's desk on Thursday. The back-to-back votes by the Senate and then the House helped avert one crisis, but just delay another as the political parties dig in on a dispute over how to raise the government's borrowing cap before the United States risks a potentially catastrophic default. The House approved the short-term funding measure by 254 to 175, not long after the Senate passed a 65-35 vote. A large majority of Republicans in both chambers voted against it. The legislation was needed to keep the government running once the current budget year ended at midnight on Thursday. Passage bought lawmakers more time to craft the spending measures that will fund federal agencies and the programs they administer. The work to keep the government open and running served as a backdrop during a chaotic day for Democrats as they struggled to get Biden's top domestic priorities over the finish line, including a bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure bill at risk of stalling in the House. With their energy focused on Biden's agenda, Democrats backed down from a showdown over the debt limit in the government funding bill, deciding to uncouple the borrowing ceiling at the insistence of Republicans. If that cap is not raised by October 18th, the U.S. probably will face a financial crisis and economic recession. Republicans say Democrats have the votes to raise the debt limit on their own, and Republican leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky is insisting they do so. The short-term spending legislation will also provide about $29 billion in disaster relief for those recovering from Hurricane Ida and other national disasters, and help support Afghanistan evacuees from the 20-year war between the U.S. and the Taliban. This is a good outcome, one I'm happy we are getting done, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said on Thursday. With so many things to take care of in Washington, the last thing the American people need is for the government to grind to a halt. Once the government is funded, albeit temporarily, Democrats now turn their full attention to the need to raise the limit on federal borrowing, which now stands at $28 trillion. The U.S. has never defaulted on its debts in the modern era, and historically, both parties have voted to raise the limit. In a related story, Biden plan at stake, Pelosi pushes ahead for a $3.5 trillion deal. With President Joe Biden's government overhaul at risk, Democrats confronted high-stakes trouble Thursday as a promised vote on the first piece, a slimmer $1 trillion public works bill, faltered amid stalled talks on his more ambitious package. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was meeting privately with factions of lawmakers throughout the day on Thursday, and Biden cleared his schedule to work the phones. Democrats determined to push ahead, strike a deal over his bigger $3.5 trillion effort, and avoid what would be a stunning setback if voting on the public works bill failed or had to be strapped. Democrats are deeply at odds as progressive lawmakers threaten to withhold votes on the roads and bridges infrastructure bill they view as insufficient unless it is paired with Biden's broader vision. In the narrowly controlled House, Pelosi has no votes to spare. In more national news, Biden vaccine mandate splits U.S. on party lines. A survey of Americans on President Joe Biden's plan to require most workers to get either vaccinated or regularly tested for COVID-19 finds a deep and familiar divide. Democrats are overwhelmingly for it, while most Republicans are against it. With the highly contagious Delta variant driving deaths up to around 2,000 per day, the poll released on Thursday by the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research showed that overall, 51% say they approve of the Biden requirement, 34% disapprove, and 14% hold neither opinion. In business news, S&P 500 fell 4% in September, worst month since March of 2020. Stocks on Wall Street fell broadly Thursday, closing out September with their worst monthly loss since the beginning of the pandemic. The S&P 500 ended the month 4.8% lower. It's the first monthly drop since January and the biggest since March 2020, when the viral outbreak rattled markets as it wreaked havoc with the global economy. And finally, in entertainment news, Marie Osmond takes singing career in new symphonic direction. The coronavirus pandemic brought the world to a halt. It also slowed Marie Osmond, but not for long. The entertainer used the time to take her singing career in a different direction. She's cultivating her childhood love of opera in a new album, an upcoming tour featuring a symphony orchestra. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's on time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, take it away.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Consider how your choices impact others. You can influence others effectively by always considering how your choices will impact them. Recognize the decisions you make and every course of action you take affects another in some way. Other people may not realize your kindness through your thoughtfulness, and once understood, it will be appreciated. Your influence among other individuals will now be perceived as gentle and persuasive, rather than abrasive or pushy. With this new level of confidence, the impact of your influence will be a good example for everyone. Today, choose your words and deeds with care as you serve to influence others through an example of mindful awareness and focused consciousness. Remember, enjoy the day.
We are part of my conversation coming up with author Anthony Trucks in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Author Anthony Trucks joined me recently on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about his new book, Identity Shift, and what it's been like for him to share his life lessons with the world. Here's a bit of our conversation. Anthony, you've had so many successes in your life now. What has it been like for you, though, now through this book, to be able to not only show a part of your process, but also show other people what they can do in their own lives?
Oh, man, it's been a blast. It's one of those things where whenever you live life and you kind of experience things, it's useful not only to be able to solve it yourself, but actually it feels good to be able to solve it for other people. So to be able to go through the journey I went through and then be able to extract some cool things that make sense and then be able to press into the hearts of other people has been huge.
Have you always known, Anthony, that your own personal success wasn't enough? And I guess what I mean by that question is that you don't seem to be a person who's content just making it yourself. You seem to be someone who wants to see other people succeed too. Is that just a part of who you are as an individual?
Yeah, but to be honest, so it hasn't always. I think that's kind of the journey of life is when you're young, you're selfish. It's like, I got to do for me and be for me. And then you start realizing, man, life is better lived when you get to experience the joy by creating something cool for others. So for me, like I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a coach. I do a lot of different things for the people, and I find a great deal of joy within that. So yeah, I most definitely go the route of saying it's a blast to be able to have that, because I also know that as human beings, relationships are a key part for all of us.
And I think, too, the thing that you reference throughout the book, Anthony, is the importance of the work. That's the part where they kind of fall off. What has that been like for you to share with people, that if this is truly what you say you want, you have to be prepared to do the things necessary to get it?
Well, it's the age-old thing that for some reason it's like the cliche that never becomes reality. But I mean, it's honestly, I think we live societally in this realm of, I call it an epidemic of shelf-esteem. We all have this information and it sits on the shelf in our house or the shelf of our minds or the shelf of our email inbox. Put it into action and be quite honest, like I don't believe that I am special.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back with you guys on Monday with more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make it a great one.